Welcome to this series of videos about modernizing MV applications with Aleph MV Framework. In our first video, we introduced the challenges of modernizing MV applications. In this episode, we will introduce the Aleph MV Framework and present the modernization strategy that we will apply to gradually replace our original application with a new one. Throughout the following episodes, we will build a modern microservices API-based application with a rich web user interface and ready to integrate with AI that will gradually replace, without disruption, the original monolithic terminal-oriented application. We will be showcasing the modernization process on our telco CRM application. What is Aleph MV Framework? Aleph MV Framework is a low-code, no-code, AI-assisted modernization framework specifically designed to modernize MV applications. Unlike other modernization frameworks, Aleph modernizes the MV environment itself, transforming your MV server into a modern application development environment that powers APIs and web applications directly from within the MV server and fully controlled from the MV server. Aleph integrates directly into your existing MV server, adding a modern layer that speaks both the language of your legacy data and the language of the modern web. Using Rocket MVIS, Aleph creates standard APIs that expose MV data and functionality to different types of API clients, web applications, external applications, and AI. Aleph allows multi-value developers to build and control APIs and web applications without having to learn new languages or technologies, and new developers to build modern multi-value applications without having to learn MV Basic. Take a look at the Aleph MV Framework architecture. The Aleph MV Framework implements an adapted version of the microservice architecture in the MV environment, Aleph Microservices. In the following diagram, we can see the architecture of the Aleph MV Framework. At the bottom, we have the legacy MV account containing both the MV database and the existing MV application. On top of the legacy MV account, we can see the Aleph Microservices. Each Aleph microservice is formed by Aleph data models that are metadata structures that create an object-oriented data access layer on top of MV files. Aleph Business Logic. Aleph Business Logic is the legacy MV basic logic refactored using Aleph object-oriented data access. Aleph APIs. Aleph APIs are OpenAPI RESTful APIs defined to expose Aleph business logic through Rocket MVIS APIs. And finally, Aleph Web Business Applications. Aleph provides a framework for building web business applications tightly integrated with the MV database through Aleph data models. You can see the Rocket MVIS API gateway. Rocket MVIS is used to expose Aleph APIs to the different API clients, such as web applications, external applications, and AI tool. But here is the most critical part of this architecture. Your data stays exactly where it is. With Aleph, you are modernizing your application's logic and interface without the massive risk, expense, and downtime of a database migration. You keep the power of multi-value while gaining the flexibility of the modern web. Aleph allows us to apply the strangler fig pattern to gradually modernize our MV application. First of all, we need to install Aleph Microservice on a separate MV account alongside our original account. In our case, we installed the framework in an account named Telco. After installing and configuring the Aleph MV framework, we will need to define the Aleph microservices that will compose our new application. This is a crucial step, and it will vary depending on the business domain or industry. A commonly used technique for this is called domain-driven design and identifies core business domains and organizes your system into bounded contexts to help define the microservice boundaries. This is typically done by grouping together data models or MV files which are related to each other, determining what is the microservice that owns that model or entity, which means that is responsible for handling the life cycle of that model or entity. In our case, we decided to partition our original telco application into the following microservices: a commercial microservice handling leads and sales, a customer services microservice that will contain support tickets, the self-service portal, and AI-powered chatbots, an accounting microservice to handle billing, payments, and debt collection, and finally a field operations microservice for work order management, technicians dispatch, inventory, and remote diagnostic and support. After determining and creating the Aleph microservices, we apply the strangler fig pattern to gradually recreate the monolithic functionality as new functionality into the corresponding Aleph microservice. Using the Aleph Framework web development interface, we will define the components of the new Aleph MV application, and we will use AI code assistance to generate the components controllers and refactor the legacy monolithic business logic into Aleph modern business logic. In each loop of this iterative process, we transform monolithic functionality into modern functionality as follows. We first define the Aleph data models that will represent the original MV files in the new application. Then we extract the monolithic business logic related to each MV file and refactor it as Aleph business logic in the corresponding microservice. We then recreate the monolithic functionality as new functionality in the corresponding microservice. The new functionality may be implemented either as a web application or an API. Once the data consistency is ensured between the old and the new functionality, the old functionality can be switched off and replaced with the new functionality. This process gradually replaces the old functionality with the new functionality until the legacy application is completely retired or subsists only as a data repository. We will cover each of the above steps in more details in the following videos. Successfully modernizing a monolithic application requires two distinct skills. First, you need to abstract the existing monolithic functionality and its existing business logic. And second, you need to reimagine that functionality as a modern functionality, an API, a web application, an AI tool, The best way to achieve this is by building collaborative, symbiotic teams formed by a mix of veteran, experienced MV developers and new talent. We call these teams symbiotic because the veterans provide their deep understanding of the legacy application, of the legacy business logic and functionality, while the new developers provide the ideas to reimagine that functionality, leveraging new solutions and technologies. This strategy pays off in the long run. By the end of the process, your new generation of developers will have gained the experience and context they need to maintain the new application on their own. In summary, Aleph allows you to gradually break down your MV monolithic application using the Strangler Fig pattern, creating new microservice applications and gradually recreating old functionality as modern functionality until the old application is no longer needed. Building symbiotic teams allows you to overcome the challenge of team renewal, ensuring that critical business knowledge is preserved and passed on to the next generation. Choosing to modernize with Aleph rather than starting a total rewrite is a strategic decision. By staying within the MV environment and evolving what you already have, you drastically reduce your project's risk. You aren't throwing away decades of proven business logic. You are simply unlocking its potential. This translates to a faster time to market at a fraction of the cost compared to a from scratch rebuild. In our next video, we will be covering in more detail one foundational feature of the Aleph framework, the Aleph data models. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.